One of the most contentious measures in the legislature the past couple of sessions has been the attempt to draw more money from New Mexico's multi-billion-dollar permanent funds and direct the money to early childhood education programs. Now, this proposal has been stopped cold in the Senate Finance Committee the last two sessions by a man who says he likes the idea of expanding early childhood education, but not how supporters want to pay for it. Here's Megan Kemerick with State Senator John Arthur Smith and CEO of St. Joseph Community Health, Alan Sanchez.
I wanted to start by talking with you, Alan, just to give us an idea. When we talk about early childhood education programs, what are these programs? What do they do? Why are they important?
Well, they're important because this is where the wiring of a child's brain takes place. Early childhood development is not about getting children into the desks earlier. It's about getting them prepared for that so that when they get to kindergarten, they're not behind. Because if they get there behind, they stay behind, and we see that in that third grade reading level. Early childhood is very important if we're going to change the graduation rates.
I want to turn to you, Senator Smith. Now, as a result of the last legislative session, New Mexico will be spending about $31 million more in the coming year on these kind of early childhood education programs. Where is the money coming from, and what will they fund?
We have two channels that we're funding. We're funding one through the Children, Youth, and Families on the early childhood, and we're funding one through Public Education Department on that. And those dollars are coming from reoccurring dollars. The additional increase that we have this year out of that $31 million, there is $10 million that was intercepted before it hits the Tobacco Settlement Fund, and we're moving that into it, and that's one-time money, and it's our intent, which was so expressed during the legislative session, to get that into reoccurring dollars in future years.
So that's the $10 million is a one-time.
The $10 million is considered from an appropriation standpoint one time, but as our economy improves, we believe that we can move it into reoccurring. The $31 million increase that we have, $21 million of that is reoccurring over the last, right.
Okay, that's allocated from the budget to those agencies.
You know, this increase to the home visiting, which is great that the Tobacco Settlement Fund will affect, but it says it's going to be increased by 36%, but 36% of a small number is still a small number. It'll reach about 1,500 children.
What percentage of kids in the state?
Well, when you think of firstborns in our state, 28,000 firstborns just in the metropolitan area of Albuquerque, 28,000 firstborns. We're barely scratching the top of the iceberg here. So we need the money to be going there because it's proven. It's kind of like piloting. All these programs have been running are proven to succeed. So we're saying we need to take a big effort and say, how are we going to change the paradigm shift? The biggest issue we have right now, and it's all symptoms of the early childhood problem, kids arrive behind. They're not reading at third grade. If they can't read at third grade, we've got a 60% graduation rate. That's not acceptable anymore. And we feel the pain that the legislators have to go through to choose. What are we going to cut? What are we going to balance here? But the beauty of this proposal of using money from the permanent fund is that we're not going to take it from another program. We're going to go upstream, make those changes, and all your savings will come downstream. The more you spend on the playpen, the more we're going to save at the state pen.
Well, let's talk about this idea, because the Land Grant Permanent Fund has been an issue you and other advocates have been pushing the last few years in the legislature. Right now it has a value of about $11.5 billion. It can only be used for education. Now, there was legislation, again, this session that proposed allowing voters to decide on changing the Constitution to allow some of the investment returns from the fund to be invested in early childhood learning. Now, Senator Smith, you've opposed this idea. Can you talk about why?
Well, there's various reasons. Number one, we're already drawing from the permanent fund in excess of what is considered to be safe distribution from that fund.
You feel we're drawing too much right now?
Well, statistically, when we look at it, we're drawing this next year, it'll be 5.5% of that fund, and that is somewhere close to $600 million that it's generating on an annualized basis. The permanent funds throughout the country, United States, have that are still maintained a safety margin. Or we look at the Texas Permanent Fund, which is in the 5% range. We look at the Yale Fund, which is in the 5% range. We look at Wyoming's Permanent Fund, which has a limit of 5%.
These operate like endowments. You have a,
exactly
you have a corpus
right.
of the 11 billion, and the idea is you keep that and you're taking out a certain amount each year that's earned.
We're
right?
taking about, we'll be taking 5.5% out of that fund.
Why is this something that you guys have focused on, that
Well,
the advocates such as St. Joseph have focused
We'll follow. The senator gives us other options. We'll follow them. And we've studied all these options. There's no political will for a new tax to do this. In the budget, there's still not, after the crash of 2008, enough money to start appropriating large amounts. But this fund is healthy, and this is like no other fund. This isn't like an endowment. This has hundreds of millions of barrels of gas and oil behind it. That's like no other fund. Even the State Investment Council, in their report, they said clearly that this fund, even if we do this proposition of investing kids now, it will double by 2031. If we don't do the proposition, it will double in 2027. This is why the House appropriation, when they looked at this, they clearly said, that's safe. We can do this. The House of Representatives, they said, this is safe. We can do this. But the senator did not give us a hearing, you know. And Senator, you need to look into the camera and say to the people of New Mexico, you've told Ken and me and myself, that you don't believe that the people in Mexico can make this decision about how to spend their money. The legislature can't change the formula for distribution. Only the people of New Mexico.
The constitutional amendment that would have allowed voters to look at this and vote on it, why not have a hearing on it? in the Senate
Megan, you know,
Finance Committee?
when it comes to spending money, if I turn to my kids and the children, they want me to spend more money. Legislative Finance Committee, the Senate Finance Committee, has to do what is fiscally responsible. What we're hearing is that that fund is so large that it's too big to fail. And we've heard that term about being too big to fail with other issues in the last few years, and the taxpayers are picking up the price of that too big to fail concept. The idea that we have out of it with that permanent fund, we're trying to grow early childhood. There's no debate on early childhood, absolutely no debate. But we're also trying to grow it in a responsible fashion rather than a deal. We want a long-term plan. And we're going to have to build capacity when we want to expand programs. We've already expanded that program in the last 2 years, 44%, when growth of government has been in the 4% range or less.
Could you not make these arguments, still have a hearing on it, even let it go to a vote and have this debate out in public with the voters and let them decide? Or is that...
Well, it's like any other issue that goes before the legislature. It's got to have the vote of the committees, and it did not have the vote of the committees. I talked to my individual committee, and they said, no, we're not going to be supportive of that. And that's what happened last year. It never got out of committee. We had a hearing the year before last, and this year, when I turned to the committee, they said they did not want to address the issue because did not have the votes to get it out of committee.
Well, this is exactly the problem. I mean, what kind of process of democracy is that? The people in New Mexico, they're tired of backroom, smoke-filled, closed doors hearings. We want a public hearing. You have a new member, the newest member of your committee, Senator George Munoz. He voted for this last year, even at a higher rate. So things have changed. But does everything that come to committee have to have had a pre-vote by the committee? No, lots of things have changed, even the distribution amount. But had the senator had a hearing, he would have known that. We got to turn this thing around. This is an emergency. This is a crisis. And there's an ethical issue about having the second largest permanent fund in the nation. It's not like no other fund. And having us at 49th and 50th in well-being of children in the states, we got to turn this around. The crisis is going to grow. And if we do nothing, if we even stop taking 1 penny from the fund, zero, the fund is weakened daily because the need is outgrowing the pace of the fund. Its power to change course is now. And it is a long-term investment because when you invest in this generation, it's changing generations for years to come.
What about in several states and municipalities, voters approved dedicated taxes to fund early childhood efforts? San Antonio approved an 1/8% sales tax. Nebraska created a $40 million endowment from its educational trust and from its educational land and trust funds. In Miami-Dade County, voters agreed to increase their property taxes to fund early childhood. I mean, are any of these possible?
We've looked at those, but there's no political will. We're
Do you agree with
visiting
that?
with it. Would one of those taxes work, Senator?
Well, the bottom line when you look at it, we're growing the program quite rapidly on early childhood, and we're doing it through the appropriation process. There's a misconception out there that New Mexico is underfunding education. There's 25 states that fund less than we do on education. So we're in the middle of the pack. On early childhood, we're in the middle of the pack. on that. So the question is, how fast do you grow this? Do you have the capacity to do it? In Albuquerque, you may have the capacity to do it. In the rural areas, you do not have the capacity to do that through children, youth, and families. You're going to have to gear up and phase that in, and that's exactly what we're doing through the appropriation process.
Do you both believe that making early childhood education universal is a goal that we should shoot for in New Mexico? Should it be available to everyone?
You know, we
Very
don't
agree.
disagree
Yeah,
on
we
the
don't
importance of that.
disagree.
My wife was an elementary teacher.
There's no disagreement.
My wife was an elementary teacher on that, elementary educator, and we don't disagree on that. It's not as if we've cut off funding. We've been growing that program. The question is, can you grow it in a responsible fashion? If you start throwing money at different issues, we've watched abuses of too much money in one area where there's misappropriations taking place. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but the last thing I want to do is come up with a political deal because it sounds great. I want a plan for this state. And that's exactly what the appropriation process does for us.
What if we had another stock market correction? Because the economy is far from being robust. And
Well,
what
in
if
2008, this survived
natural
it.
gas prices are not great?
The last 10 years, the average growth was 11% of this fund. Last year's alone was 14.
The last 5 years' growth of this fund has been 2.34%. We're distributing at 5.5% right now, which means we're mining the corpus of the fund.
Do you look at a long-term growth rate? Or
That's
do you,
exactly. I mean, you pointed to last year what the growth was in the 14% range. I gave you 5 years, so it tells you where I'm trending that at. But the bottom line is that that fund at one time was scheduled to hit $12 billion back in 2009, 2010, and it dipped to the $9 billion range is where it dropped to. And so the 5.5%, the reason we're guarding that is we want to take care of the hills and valleys in funding. We average a 5% and 5.5% distribution over 5 years. Some states, they'll have maybe in their fund, they'll have distributed $5 billion off of a 1-year performance. We do ours over a 5 years to try and flatten it out a little bit.
And we got to get back to the issue of what's in front of us. Really, a constitutional amendment, is this worthy of a public debate? That's what we're asking. That's what we want the hearing. And vote it up and down. But is it worth of a public debate? Because the legislators, they can't change that formula. Only the people can. I trust the people of New Mexico. If the people of New Mexico can elect our officials who govern us, they can make this decision. This is what we're asking for. Let the people decide. Let's educate them. The House appropriation, as wise as you, they've looked at the numbers and they say it works.
So presumably this will come up again in the
Oh,
next
yeah, because,
legislative
you know,
session.
like the board of St. Joseph, who does great works in New Mexico, they know the effort will outlast any political wills. The need is so big, the need's not going to go away, and it's going to be pushing us. Now, I'll be there to help the senator. If they're going to appropriate money from the general fund every year to grow that, we're going to be around to help you and to quote you on it. You know?
So what would it take to have a hearing on this?
Well, the bottom line is we have a multitude of people that want to help you how to spend money. The challenge in the Senate Finance Committee is how do you do it in a responsible fashion? Because when you allude to all these contractors, virtually all of them have a lobbyist up there that wants you to spend more money. But a lot of them have contracts where they're willing to do studies. You've had Voices for Children and that group.
Well, that's a
advocacy
study
right there.
organization.
They want more money.
Is there a possibility this proposal itself could have a hearing?
Well, there's always a possibility when we will look at that, but I want to look at the revenue base to see where we're at and see what it's doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I believe the Senate is being responsible, and it's working to get to the point where how can we make this work? Senator Clemente Sanchez, a good conservative, fiscal conservative, he made an amendment in his committee, changed the distribution, and voted for it. I'm hoping that someday we can address this and change it to a point where maybe the Senate is actually not just having a hearing, but voting for it, because our kids need it. The crisis is now, and we both agree on the crisis.
In 2004, it was lost on the Senate floor, and I had voted with the majority and had a right to pull it up, and it was my vote that pulled it back up when we took it under the Richardson administration and moved it up. Biggest mistake I ever made, because I started looking at that fund and the risk that we put it at when there was a downturn in the economy, that I should never have taken that vote. So I've taken a vote on permanent fund.
But not for early childhood. We've never used it for early childhood. This
You
is a
do it
whole
for early
different
childhood, and you get into your legal issue as far as one of the beneficiaries of the state.
The beneficiary
and
endorsed it.
the Attorney General has a lot of other issues. We could bring in the land commissioner whose charge is to take care of this permanent fund, and he's looking for other ways to come up with additional land to do that, to make certain it is legal. And I'm certainly willing to listen to that argument. But the last thing I want to do is have our fund in litigation. The first thing I want to do is continue through the appropriation process, the increasing of emphasis on early childhood and education in the state of New Mexico. And I still want to be able to make certain that the retirement plans are sound. And so the challenge obviously is there, and there's a perception out there that more money fixes everything. And I'm not of the school that subscribes to that. Thank you.
I hate to cut this off, but we are at time.
Well, School for the Blind, School for the Deaf endorsed this. The beneficiaries, many of them, are in favor of this because they know the need.
Well, I thank you both for coming
Thank
and
you.
talking about this, having a spirited discussion. Thank you very much.